It's always nice to walk in here on a Friday with some warm and welcoming messages from the F&M Bank chat. Good morning. How's everybody? Welcome in. Jameson, right off the top, will Buck be on time today? Find out next. I'm on time. I'm here. We scripted that bit. I feel like I should probably put that out there into the universe since our employers listen every day. That I was not actually late this week, that Robert Walsh was sitting in my chair with a cigarette.
Oh, really?
I was here.
Wish we could prove that.
There are cameras in this building. I don't know if they work or not. Nobody is confirmed or denied. But either way, we're happy to have you on this Friday. Hope you're having a great one. Got a lot of good stuff to get to. It is Florida week. Vols heading down to the swamp. Chris Doering, former Florida wide receiver, will join us. SEC Network pundit. He'll be here in just about 15 minutes from now. And Coach Mack at 11:20 to get you ready for the Titans and the Chargers. So the headline, at least locally, is DeAndre Hopkins, right? He's on the injury report with the ankle. He's DNP the last 2 days. We'll see what today at practice looks like. It's a walkthrough, and Mike Vrabel will either rule him out or rule him as questionable, one would imagine, for Sunday's game. But his status is currently in doubt. Now, we'll spend more time on that throughout the course of the noon hour today. But in the meantime, I did want to start with the Thursday night football game last night because it seems to me that there's a common theme. Luke has been trying to push me off my strident preseason opinions for the better part of, what would you say, bud? 2 months at this point?
This year, yes. Yes. You have been overly dismissive of the benefits of playing in the preseason.
And while I still think that the risk of playing starters, meaningful players in the preseason far outweighs the reward, I do acknowledge that there are probably some benefits to playing in the preseason. The Titans offense, what did it look like in week one? The offense itself probably looked okay. I felt pretty good about what the offense was out there to accomplish, what they had out there in front of them. The thing that I didn't like, the thing that none of you liked, is the quarterback's performance. And in Mike Vrabel's own words, right, rust. Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles offense last night displayed a little bit of that rust. And, Lucas, you brought up these comments from Nick Sirianni after week one, right? This was his immediate post-game press conference, or was this the following Monday?
No, post-game presser after the Eagles narrowly defeated the New England Patriots in week one, in which Jalen Hurts, you can check the box score and nothing will jump out at you, but if you watch the game, you would see he wasn't his best. He wasn't his sharpest, especially in the first half of that game.
Well, let's hear from Nick Sirianni just about what he feels like he needs to accomplish with his starters next year ahead of week one.
I'll definitely reevaluate some of the preseason stuff next year. I know they played the first 2 years that we were here. They only played one series against the Jets in 2022. Maybe I should have played them, a series or two this preseason, and I already wrote that in my notes. And I'm constantly self-evaluating myself, and and I'm not promising anything. And I know y'all will remember this conversation and play it, and that's okay. But I have to, I'll reevaluate that, and second thought, if I had to do it over again right now, I would say, I would have played the starters 1 or 2 drives in the preseason. But, next year will be a new thing with new situations and new everything. So I'm not worrying about that right now. I just got it in my notes to think about right now, though.
So that's Nick Sirianni after their week one game. Now, the Eagles are 2-0, but, admittedly, it's been kind of a slog. It didn't really look as clean, and the score was not as close. The game was not as close as the final score ended up being 34-28.
4 fumbles by the Vikings helped.
Woof. I mean, I'm telling you. Turnovers in week one have been the narrative, right? Or that primary storyline. Turnovers have really, really plagued a lot of these quarterbacks. And it wasn't Kirk Cousins last night. It was Madison. There were fumbles all over the place.
Justin Jefferson. Cousins was good.
Cousins was fine. But again, turnovers undermine a fine performance by Kirk Cousins. Do you think they regret the Dalvin Cook decision at all, the Vikings? Because Madison is not. I mean, he's not. He can probably get you through, but he's nothing special, and they had a legitimately special player, it felt like.
Yeah, Madison's always been good in
He's been
support
solid.
in support of Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook's had injury problems.
He has.
And Madison's always been enough to step in behind him. So I don't know if 2 weeks is enough of a sample size to take any blanket takeaways on what Alexander Mattison is or isn't at the running back position, or what Dalvin Cook is or isn't for the Jets this year. We'll see. But, yeah, not great yesterday running into that Eagles front.
So what somebody, AJ Parkinson in the F&M Bank chat, you can interact with the show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, or you can call 615-737-1045. He says of my position of thinking that there's still greater risk of injury that outweighs the reward of shaking off the rust in the preseason. And I'm still with that position, even though I acknowledge that, yeah, a lot of these guys look sloppy, and a lot of them did not play in the preseason. Some of them did, but that's not really the point here. The point is speed of the game and getting ready to go for week one. And what AJ is saying in the chat, so Buck, what you're saying is the injury risk is outweighing the reward of winning. No, but I do think that I'm okay with the idea of treating September closer to preseason than I am not, if that makes any sense.
I'm confused by what you've just said.
I know. And it's not a position that's like, I guess what I'm trying to say is,
I'm not confused by your point. I'm confused by what the point is. I'm confused by the way you organize those words. What are you trying to say?
Did I organize that poorly?
Yeah, you're considering September. Sorry, say that one more time.
Okay, like the first couple of games of the year. Are you cool with them shaking off the rust in the first couple games of the year as opposed to the preseason? Sorry if I articulated that poorly. Working slow on a Friday. Because, I kind of am. Now, I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's a 17-game season. And it's not like they've expanded or shortened the season itself. The season itself is still 20 total games. They just removed a preseason game and added a regular season game. So I understand that sounds counterintuitive because, yes, the regular season games do matter. The preseason games do not. The preseason games, there is usefulness to them, but they don't carry the same value. I'm okay with them looking a little rusty in week one. And it doesn't mean that right, wrong, or indifferent, you should or you shouldn't play guys in the preseason, but I don't think it's the end of the world that they look rusty in week one. Now, I think it's more the end of the world for, say, Josh Allen. Josh Allen, who lost to a divisional opponent, who lost to a conference opponent, who didn't have their starting quarterback for but 5 snaps at the start of the game. Lost to Zach Wilson, lost because of turnovers. That's a more impactful game that was lost than was the Titans' loss. These regular season losses do matter. I'm not saying that one loss matters less than the other. But I'm not losing my mind if they look rusty in September, even as I acknowledge that the games do actually count.
You're coming off of a season where you're literally one game away from the postseason. It's hard for me to reason with being okay with any sort of rust or sacrificing anything in September just because it's early season.
I mean, I'm not saying that they are. I'm not saying that this is not their position. This is the position that I'm taking. I don't know that that's the position of Mike Vrabel of the Tennessee Titans. Now, like I said, I'm largely okay with that. That's okay if you're not. Because Lucas is correct. They were one game. They were one play. They were one call, if you want to whittle it down that narrowly, to making the postseason last year, to winning the division for 3 straight years. So I'm not saying it's a winning position that I'm taking. But I'm not bent out of shape if a lot of these teams look rusty in week one because I understand that the season itself hasn't changed. It's just that they've made one matter more than it used to. 615-737-1045 is the number. Jason in Nashville is up first. Hey, Jason.
Hey, Buck. I think what you're saying and what I'm getting the gist of is I think what they should do is the very first week, nobody plays any division rival games the very first week. That way, that rust is kind of shaken off. That way, the game doesn't count maybe so much for certain teams. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, the league isn't going to do that. I appreciate the call, Jason, because like they want the games to matter. They want people to. It's like, do you see what the new NBA rule is with load management, where you can't sit 2 stars, quote unquote stars? How they classify these guys as stars or not stars is a different question. But you can't sit 2 stars or probably starting players on the same night. If you're going to load manage these dudes, that's the way that the NBA is trying to combat these things. So this is a different kind of load management for an NFL season. And the NFL wants to figure out how to keep these guys as healthy for as long as humanly possible because they want their stars. It's a disaster for them to lose Aaron Rodgers the way that they did.
Yeah,
right? They want New York
primetime games that are left on the Jets schedule.
Right? They want New York in the Super Bowl. They want the biggest television number humanly possible. They want to figure out how to keep these guys healthy too, or healthy enough. But I just, I think the debate has gone on so long about preseason or no preseason. It's kind of like the analytics discussion that we're having around Mike Vrabel, where the numbers are strictly telling you to go for it on 4th and 6th, and Mike makes a decision that is more gut-based, for lack of a better term, than it is the numbers. You have the numbers at your disposal. You don't have to take them as gospel. He ultimately didn't. The decision didn't work. He's getting dragged for it for the whole next week. But I do think that there's some room for error here. So while I think that Tannehill not playing in the preseason probably did contribute to rust because we're talking about the last game that he played was the Chargers. The last game that he played was the Chargers, which was, I think, like December 9th, December 17th, early to mid-December. So it has been some time. Either way, different opportunity, different team, home game for the Tennessee Titans to try and rebound this coming Sunday. We'll have time to talk about that throughout the course of the day. Meanwhile, Vols have a big opportunity coming up in the Swamp tomorrow night. We're going to talk about it with the SEC Network's Chris Doering coming up next. Yes. It really feels like September out in Middle Tennessee. Today, we are excited to have SEC football in our lives. Conference play on the horizon coming up tomorrow night. The Vols, they're heading down to the Swamp. It's a difficult place to play. I don't have to tell Tennessee fans this. We talk about battered Vol syndrome around here quite a bit, and I haven't really experienced a lot of it this week. But perhaps Chris Doering can straighten some people out. SEC Network is where you can find him. Sirius XM as well. Hey, buddy, how we living?
Hey, man, good to be on with y'all. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. So this feels like a lot of people are picking Florida for the upset this weekend. And I know Tennessee hasn't looked inspired on offense, but I wonder how that strikes you.
It's not only the inspiration part, it's the execution part. Like, everybody wants to talk about Joe Milton and, how he's been accurate. And he has at times been inaccurate. But I'm really disappointed with the wide receivers of Tennessee. I thought this was one of the best wide receiving corps heading into the season that the SEC had. And to see them drop as many balls as they have has been disappointing to me. Offensive line, I know you get Cooper Mays back this week, presumably, for Tennessee, but those guys looked bad at times last week against Austin Peay. Running backs not being as solid in protection as you like. So it's really been a group effort. And I guess you could look at it one of two ways as a Tennessee fan. It's one, hey, we haven't really played very well in a lot of aspects offensively, and yet we're still 2-0 here. And if we clean things up, we got a chance to be really good. Or you can look at it as like, what's wrong? We haven't done it yet. What leads us to believe we're going to be able to go down and do it in kind of a hostile environment that you'll face on Saturday in the Swamp.
Chris Doering is here with us on 104.5 The Zone. So that is the biggest thing with Tennessee. And the result, obviously being favored by 50 against Austin Peay at home, damn near, was something that was going to send Vols fans spiraling when they saw the way that game played out. But in particular, with Joe Milton, Chris, you've watched him enough throughout the course of not just his SEC career, but he's been in college football for going on 6 seasons at this point. It's okay if he's a finished product, but he needs more help around him than did Hendon Hooker, and it just doesn't seem like he's getting it right now.
No, he's definitely not getting it right now, and I think that's one of the things that's been disappointing to Tennessee fans and disappointing to me, too. I love Josh Heupel. I love his offense. When you have the right pieces in there, it executes at a really high level. And I was a guy that played at Florida, and sometimes we got labeled as system players, system quarterbacks, system receivers. And I think sometimes what you see when you lose guys like Hendon Hooker, you lose somebody like a Jalen Hyde or Cedric Tillman, is that the system doesn't work as well without the right pieces. So, it's a little chicken and the egg, but, I think right now these guys are trying to figure out, where they kind of fit into the offense. Cedric Thornton, Thornton Jr., he's got to be able to, the guy that's Thornton Jr. has got to be able to catch the ball more consistently. I think going back to that first game, I was big on Ramel Keaton, but Ramel Keaton's been largely disappointing in the first 2 ball games to some degree. So, the offense has a lot of potential, but if you don't have the right guys executing it and making the plays when they have the opportunities, the system's going to break down at times. I think that's kind of what you've seen, and the reason why you only have 4 explosive passing plays of over 20 yards or more through 2 games.
The Swamp as an environment at night, conference play, Tennessee coming to town. The fans here know what it's like. What is it like to be in that game?
Yeah, it is it's a unique environment. We talked about it on our show this morning. The top places to go play in the SEC as an opponent. I love playing at Jordan-Hare. I love playing at Neyland Stadium. You knew what you're going to expect in terms of energy in that stadium. You knew what you're going to expect in terms of the challenge of being able to communicate in that stadium, and that's what Tennessee faces. I mean, it's no fluke that Tennessee hasn't.
Oh, it looks like we lost Chris. Phone line wasn't great there. We'll see if we can't get him back. It sounded a little garbled on our end. Chris Doering of the SEC Network trying to fight through some phone issues there. So we'll put him back up on the line and get his analysis. But it is going to be a hostile environment. It is going to be something that I think this Tennessee team has to be in the right mindset for. And, whether they were overlooking Austin Peay or not, he mentioned the execution issues, particularly by the wide receivers, and how disappointing that has been. I think that for Tennessee, that is the thing that they absolutely cannot have. And Chris was just describing the environment. He's back here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Sorry about that, buddy. I don't know if that was on our end.
No, man, technology is great when it works and not so great when it doesn't. But I was just talking about, the environment in general. Yeah, I loved having a chance to go play in places like Jordan-Hare and Neyland Stadium because you knew, the excitement and energy in the stadium. And a lot of that had to do with who we were as a team and who we were as a rival to those respective schools. And I think, it's apropos, right? The final year of divisions in the SEC. Tennessee and Florida became instant rivals back in '92 when we went to the East and the West, and that game meant so much. Coach Furrier used to talk to us about playing in September and how important that game was to give the winner basically a 1.5 or 2 game lead in the East race. And so more times than not, it was the winner of that game that would go on to play for the SEC championship and ultimately win the SEC championship game. And I think what we're seeing here is this profile of this game after losing some of the luster over the last 10 years or so, feels like it's back as the headline game in the SEC. Florida fans, some of the younger ones don't even realize why they hate Tennessee, but they hate Tennessee. They're going to show up and it's going to be loud and it's going to be a place that I think Tennessee's going to have a hard time communicating because of the proximity of the fans to the field, and I'm interested to see if some of those guys, like Joe Milton and some of the guys that are trying to step into the big number 1 and number 2 positions as the receivers, are going to be able to get into the rhythm that they need to have success in the passing game.
Yeah, not an ideal situation for a team struggling with execution issues. Chris Doering of the SEC Network here with us on 104.5 The Zone.
So, Chris, for the majority of my football life, Florida was the highly ranked team, the favorite, regardless of where the game was being played, with Tennessee being the underdog, trying to sort of still establish a program under a new head coach in his first or second year. And I would always approach these games growing up as a Tennessee fan with this mixture of maybe naive excitement mixed with dread. And now these roles are sort of reversed, where Tennessee's obviously the favorite, the highly ranked team, and Florida's still kind of trying to get out of the gates under Billy Napier. So I guess I'm curious what the feeling is in Gainesville right now, just the confidence level of the fan base, A, in this program at this stage under Billy Napier, and B, in this game specifically.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting dynamic that you bring up because for a lot of Florida fans, they weren't even alive the last time that Florida lost to Tennessee in Gainesville. So it's just one of the things you do, right? You show up when Tennessee comes to town, you celebrate a victory, and you send the Vols home losers. The dynamic is different this year with how good Heupel and the offense and everything was last year, and I think that confidence has Tennessee fans feeling optimistic about it. But I think it also gets the attention of the Florida players and maybe more importantly the attention of the Florida fans. We've heard a lot of coaches over the last couple of weeks, and Kirby Smart this week, calling on his Georgia fans to show up and make a difference in the game. Billy Napier talked about it as well. They mentioned that the crowd has a chance to affect the outcome of the game, and I think they'll be ready under the lights. There's not a whole lot of Florida Tennessee games in Gainesville that have been played at night, so I think it's going to be a little unique dynamic in that respect. But I think there's a lot of cautious optimism for whatever reason. Even though Florida's almost a touchdown underdog, I think Florida fans feel like they cleaned some things up last week, albeit against McNeese State, and that you catch Tennessee at a vulnerable time. I thought it was a huge advantage for Florida to catch Tennessee in September versus October and November, when maybe Joe Milton has a little bit more of a feet underneath him as the starting quarterback, and the offense is rolling with a little bit more rhythm.
He's Chris Doering of the SEC Network. At Chris Doering is where you can follow him on Twitter. My friend, enjoy week 3 of the college football slate, and we appreciate your time as always.
Thanks for having me, guys. Take care.
That's Chris Doering of the SEC Network with us. It was okay at the end. I didn't want to let him go. I didn't want to let him go yet, but the phone line. Damn the phone line. I had more questions. Who do you think is the best quarterback in the SEC right now? Because I genuinely wanted to talk to Chris about this because Graham Mertz, obviously, and the struggles at Florida. I really wanted to know what he thinks their biggest issue is as an offense because the physicality, I mean, not on display against McNeese State, right? They won, 49-7 last week? But against Utah, that was the big takeaway. Is, oh, my God, they're getting pushed around. And, yes, they're on the road. Yes, Utah in week one is a difficult opponent. But that physicality element of that's going to be critical to this matchup when you're talking about a Tennessee team that is going to need to lean on their rushing attack, one would think.
Yeah, and Florida's had trouble with just playmaking on the perimeter. Ricky Pearsall has kind of been their guy in that regard, the wide receiver. So they're going to try and get him the football as much as possible, but they got to find some other guys to make plays in space. And Graham Mertz has got to kind of facilitate that. He's an experienced quarterback. He's not going to wow you. His decision-making's probably going to be fine. But, yeah, Tennessee has got to win up front in this game. They've got to win in the run game because I don't know that you can rely on Joe Milton. How can you rely on Joe Milton being rhythmic and efficient for 4 quarters in this game? He just hasn't shown that yet this year. So,
well, it's just so hard because of what Chris brought up. The drops are killing them.
Yeah, it's whenever Milton's been on the money in the intermediate passing game or the deep balls like to Ramel Keaton against Virginia, his receivers have let him down a little bit. So this has got to be the time for that to come together for Tennessee in this game. It's going to be interesting. You ask the question, who's the best quarterback in the SEC right now? That's a fascinating question right now. I think I'd say KJ Jefferson of Arkansas. He's the most experienced. He's gotten off to probably the best start to the season. Strength of schedule hasn't been anything of note, so we'll see when SEC play starts for them. But, Jaden Daniels didn't get off to a great start against Florida State. Yeah. Spencer Rattler has been fine. He's just been let down by that offensive line group, was running for his life in the North Carolina game. So that's a fascinating question right now. Who's the best quarterback in the SEC? It's Music City Malik on the F&M Bank chat says, what about Will Rogers? That's a great shout, too, for Mississippi State. It's not Joe Milton right now. He's been productive, but he has not been efficient.
Yeah, I mean, you make the point that anytime he does feel like he's finding rhythm, there's a drop that just kills a drive or throws the offense out of whack. And, how much Cooper Mays can rectify some of the issues, I just don't. I mean, the offensive line did not look great, as Chris correctly pointed out, against Austin Peay, which is concerning.
It looked good in the run game. Like, Tennessee has been able to run at will to this point against Virginia, Virginia is a bad football team, but a stout, experienced defensive front, and against Austin Peay. So Florida, that's going to be a whole other challenge. But in the run game, I think that's where Tennessee fans can have confidence in this offense through the first 2 weeks. Plus, you get your starting center back in Cooper Mays.
So we'll see how much that improves the operational elements that we're talking about with Tennessee. I mean, you have to win the game. You have to win the game. Florida's
this game.
As vulnerable as they've ever been, at least with you playing at the Swamp, if you're Tennessee. Have to win the game.
News in the SEC, by the way. New starting quarterback at Alabama.
What?
Tyler Buckner.
No.
Getting the start in week 3 at South Florida. I need someone to explain to me why Alabama is going down to Tampa to play USF. A program that was like 1-11 last season.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I'm very confused by that. I saw that earlier this week, and I thought, no.
Not UCF.
No.
Not the former national champion UCF.
Not Big
Knights.
12 school UCF.
Oh, that's right.
USF with former Tennessee offensive coordinator Alex Golesh now as the head coach. Very confused by that.
What?
I thought that was a typo when I read that earlier this week. But no, Bama is traveling to Tampa to play USF in Raymond James Stadium.
That is so bizarre.
I know. I thought that was so odd. But
okay,
Tyler Buckner, the Notre Dame transfer, gets the start at quarterback for Alabama.
Do you think they're going to do this all season long?
It's clear what the pecking order is. We at least know that now, right?
Yeah, Simpson's not sniffing it.
Not a factor at the moment.
Well, that is an interesting wrinkle. Because, I mean, so just to kind of pivot to Alabama quickly, Milroe didn't, I mean, the turnovers are the thing that is going to get you pulled if you're the quarterback of Alabama right now. Like, that is the thing that you can least afford, to turn the ball over, to put your team and put your defense in unenviable positions and things like that. And he did have turnovers against Texas. I just wonder, how, like, so is it Buckner now until it's not? Like, how is Saban going to play this?
Feels
literally
pretty,
week to week?
It feels pretty touch and go right now.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen this from Alabama, right? Jalen Hurts did not start the 2016 season as Alabama's starting quarterback. It was Blake Barnett,
Yeah.
the 5-star, who got trotted out there against USC at Jerry World in Dallas and looked like a deer in headlights, was just not ready for the moment. Coincidentally, Blake Barnett, who ended up transferring to USF after his Alabama stint.
Revenge game.
But Jalen Hurts gets tossed in as a true freshman in that game, and the rest was sort of history until it wasn't, until the national championship or Tua comes in and all of that. But so, we're not strangers to Alabama doing this at the quarterback position, but this does feel slightly different. Although if Tyler Buckner gets in there and starts slinging it around and making good decisions, watch out, because if this Alabama offensive line group can kind of get its stuff together and gel in the early portion of the season, I understand people are kind of writing off Alabama right now, but I would be wary.
Who's writing off Alabama with any seriousness? No.
Kicks good in the F&M Bank chat. Alabama is no longer the powerhouse of the SEC.
Oh, for God's sake.
Music City Malik in the F&M Bank chat. Bama is tanking. Powder. Keep it dry.
Okay, can we not with the Alabama stuff? Like, come on. You really don't think they're going to be a factor down the stretch? Let's not be ridiculous.
I would agree.
I think while it is fair to acknowledge that Georgia looks to be ahead of Alabama right now, to just completely discount the greatest coach in the history of the sport seems a bit premature. Slightly. Now, we will get, when we get to Friday Fire today, some people who are questioning the greatest coach in the history of college football, which delights me. But it feels a little bit like, I understand that people want it to happen, and it is going to happen. At some point, Alabama is not going to be one of the teams that we talk about year in and year out. We're seeing it, it feels like right now with Clemson, where you don't get to be at the top forever. You just don't. Like LSU has had down years, right? And still bounce back. Notre Dame has had down years. Like, this is not uncommon.
Yeah, but it's so easy to pinpoint why this is happening for Clemson.
Well, yeah.
It's of their own doing almost. It's like, okay, Dabo.
No, not almost.
Yeah, it is. Right. It's like, all right, Dabo, you don't want to believe in the transfer portal. You don't want to utilize that whatsoever. That's fine. Looks like you could probably use a transfer portal wide receiver. If only there were a way to boost depth and address talent other than recruiting at the wide receiver position for Clemson. There is, and Dabo refuses to use it. So that downfall appears to be of their own making. Alabama right now, it's a little bit mystifying because of how talented this team is on paper when you look at recruiting rankings and the like, but it's just not happening for them. At the wide receiver position, offensive line group just got flat out outplayed against Texas. But yes, I agree with you that it's probably not the smart thing to do to go ahead and cast off Alabama, especially in a wide open SEC West.
Doesn't mean that it's not going to happen at some point. I just, I always kind of hate like people rooting on the downfall of things like the Patriots or Alabama or stuff like that. Because like, do you want it to be less than, or you just want somebody different? Because I get it if you just want somebody different, but they're just so damn great. Like I don't want less of that. I want to see them in as many high profile games as long as they're great. Like I want to see them in as many high profile games as possible. We have people commenting on the idea, somebody mentioned it earlier in the chat, the idea that we would see the real Tennessee offense for the first time tomorrow. And Jeff Daniels on YouTube says, Vols will show their true, he uses the incorrect there, but that's okay. Vols will show their true offense Saturday, mark it down. Well, I've just been informed that is the feature of Lucas's SEC Stat of the Day, so why don't we get to that next? Can you even play this song if it's going to be that mangled?
I love that. It's
What
double G? Yeah, I love that. That's so funny to me.
What? Why do we even have things like that? Welcome back to the show.
It sounds like you're playing a record in reverse.
We're going to get another email. It's going to be about us playing devil music on the radio. They've been playing an album in reverse. God help us. 615-737-1045 is the number. Yes, send all of your angry emails about our programming to @LucasPanzica on Twitter. What is the SEC stat of the day?
Let's talk about SEC, baby. Let's talk about the SEC. Let's talk about Nick Saban and Josh Heupel in the SEC. Let's talk about SEC, baby. Let's talk about the SEC. Let's talk about Brian Kelly and Greg Sankey in the SEC. Let's talk about SEC.
Twofold SEC stat of the day on this Friday.
2 for 1.
In the history of this rivalry series between Tennessee and Florida, Buck, how many times do you think a ranked Tennessee team has played an unranked an unranked Florida team? Ranked Tennessee versus unranked Florida. How many times, not including this week, has that happened in the history of this series?
Can you tell me how many times total they've played?
Oh.
Just so I have a frame of reference.
I can look
Because I don't think it's a big number, but I know this is like, a lot of years.
It's a small number.
Let's say 10.
It's 5.
Oh.
5 times. Because typically, at the height of this rivalry, which really only became a heated rivalry in the early 90s when divisions came to the SEC, and it essentially was the SEC East championship game every year, 5 times Tennessee has played an unranked Florida, with the Vols being a ranked team. Typically, it's a battle between 2 ranked teams, at least at the height of the rivalry. Tennessee's 5-0 when playing Florida as a ranked team, with the Gators being unranked. 2 of those wins were in Gainesville. Obviously, Tennessee, the number 11 team in the country. Florida is unranked. Clearly, that has no bearing on this game, but just something to keep in mind as the Vols head down to the Swamp. But if we are going to take it to the field, Tennessee has attempted downfield passes of 15 or more yards 11 times through the first 2 games of the season. They're 2 for 11 in pass attempts of 15 or more yards this season. Now, that's a mixture of timing and misses by Joe Milton, especially in the intermediate passing game against Austin Peay, and drops. There were several of those against Austin Peay. There was one glaring one against Virginia with Ramel Keaton on a gorgeous, gorgeous deep ball put on the money by Joe Milton. That, to me, was supposed to be the thing that Tennessee was going to be ahead of the curve on coming into this season, was that timing down between Joe Milton and the receivers that returned with him. Squirrel White, Ramel Keaton, Brew McCoy, who Milton got an opportunity to play a lot of football with last season. Joe Milton told me that personally at SEC Media Days, that was something that they were ahead of the curve on. That
I feel
timing.
like I should be able to fine you for that.
You want to fine me for that?
Joe Milton told me personally. Yes,
all right.
I would like to fine you for that.
I'll allow it, but it pertains to the conversation. We could run back the audio.
I want more of those, so I have the opportunity to do that to you again. I now know why you do it to me. That's fun. I like that.
But to me, that's concerning.
Okay.
Through the first 2 weeks.
Yes, it is. It is concerning.
That it feels like that rhythm is not nailed down between Milton and those guys. Deontay Thornton comes in as a transfer from Oregon. You understand there's an adjustment there. But when it comes to those returning players like Squirrel White, Ramel Keaton, and Brew McCoy, that should be there, and it hasn't been through the first 2 weeks. I think Tennessee's got to jump out to a lead in this game. Florida's crowd's going to be on their neck early. Florida is not the type of team that is built to come back. Tennessee is, right? If that passing game gets going, Tennessee can overcome some leads. The way the defense is playing so far, Tennessee's front seven's been wreaking havoc. They lead the SEC in TFLs, in sacks. Yes, it's against Virginia and Austin Peay. You got to prove it against the Florida offensive line. But jumping out to an early lead, the first quarter, massive in this game, if Tennessee is to go down and just take care of business. And you know what's insane? We're in year 6 of Joe Milton as a college football player.
Mm-hmm.
This is his first true road start. This man's been in college football for 6 years. Think about it.
No.
Yeah.
Didn't he start? Was Vandy at Tennessee last year?
No, he started at Vanderbilt, but go ahead and tell me that that's a true road start
for God's
the
sakes.
Tennessee Vols. No, I'm being serious right now. Joe Milton, a true road start in front of a hostile environment. You're going to tell me that was the case at Vanderbilt?
No, it's a home game.
That wasn't a 70%, if not more, Tennessee crowd?
Okay, I get your point.
Joe Milton was not a starting quarterback until 2020. Started majority of the 2020 season for the Michigan Wolverines. Played plenty of road games in the Big Ten. Barely a soul in any of those stadiums, COVID crowds. He comes to Tennessee in 2021. Joe Milton was benched, got hurt, but was replaced by Hendon Hooker before Tennessee even hit the road in 2021. So last season, Joe Milton played mop-up duty in a couple of road games, but as far as it being his team, his start, yes, at Vanderbilt in front of a Tennessee crowd, neutral site in the Orange Bowl, quote-unquote neutral site in the opener against Virginia, and at home against Austin Peay. This is the first time in 6 years of college football that Joe Milton has a true road start in front of a hostile environment, and it's in the Swamp. It's going to be really interesting to see how he responds.
Are you trying to give people BVS? What are you doing?
No, we're just.
What are you doing? It's Florida Hate Week.
Just look.
Sleighs running around screaming at everybody. Running next to cars screaming at them with giant Vols chains around his neck. Go Vols! He's screaming at everybody, and you're here to tell people that this is Joe Milton's first real road game.
That struck me on Wednesday. Like I don't know why that thought popped into my head.
That he's never played in front of a hostile environment on the road.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Tennessee should win this game.
You're not making it sound like it.
Tennessee has all the pieces to win this game. Tennessee is a more talented football team than Florida. Tennessee's defense is better and deeper than Florida's, and Tennessee's offense should be far more explosive than what we've seen from Florida in the first 2 weeks.
Your beloved Josh Pate picked the Gators.
He did. Yeah, Florida's been kind of a trendy upset pick. And look, I get it. I get why that could be a tricky thing for Tennessee to walk into and why Florida you could look at as a team that could figure things out in week 3 against the Tennessee offense that's kind of sputtered a little bit in the first couple of weeks. But if Tennessee can continue to find success in the run game and win up front defensively and make Graham Mertz's life hell on Saturday and eliminate Ricky Pearsall on the perimeter, then Tennessee should win this game. And quite honestly, they should win this game handily. Last season in Neyland Stadium, I think 38-33, the final with Anthony Richardson throwing for 450-something yards. 38-33 made it look a lot closer than it was. Florida recovered an onside kick and scored near the end there. But so all that to say, Tennessee should go down to Gainesville and should handle their business. But we'll see if this is a close game in the fourth quarter. I pray it's not.
All that to say, but who are you trying to convince?
I don't know.
Does it make you upset that you can't help but have BVS? Like it seems ingrained in your analysis now. It concerns me for you. Yeah, we're going to talk about this later in the show because I feel like you. It's not like you have to push me to talk about Vols, but you have not. I feel like I have brought up more Vols topics this week than you have, and I don't know if it's because you're scared. And we're going to talk about it at noon today because I think that we've stumbled into something that we need to talk about. And also, I need a live stream camera on you at this wedding because I'm worried about you.
The ceremony is at 5.
Oh, you're so screwed.
The itinerary, I'm in the wedding, right? So the ceremony's at 5. The itinerary has the bride and groom being introduced at 6, which is right at kickoff. And it says with an asterisk that the wedding party will not be introduced, like with the bride and groom. So I said, yes, I'll be at the table by myself. Everybody will be going, yay, congratulations. Oh, my God, it's Mr. and Mrs. And I'll be back there holed up in a corner,
murder.
Screaming at my phone. Yes. They brought this upon themselves by scheduling a wedding on week 3 of the college football season.
I'm so excited for this. I'm dying. Like I am dying. I need one of the other groomsmen's cell phone numbers. I need documentation of what you're going to be at this wedding because I'm concerned that you're going to ruin it for the couple.
Me too. That's not up to me. That's up to Tennessee. That's up to the Vols.
Okay,
Florida.
take a breath. Take a breath. NFL Pick 6 next.
It is 11:01. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. Thursday night, the Eagles outscored the Minnesota Vikings 34-28 on Thursday Night Football, as heard on 104.5 The Zone. Philly outrushing Minnesota 259-28 on the night and forcing 4 lost fumbles from the Vikings, who start 0-2. The Eagles are 2-0. The Tennessee Titans host the Los Angeles Chargers for the home opener Sunday at Nissan Stadium. Running back Tyjae Spears returned to practice as a full participant on Thursday. Christian Fulton and Tier Tart both limited. Safety Amani Hooker and wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins did not practice, as Hooker remains in concussion protocol and Hopkins deals with an ankle. The Lee Company countdown to kickoff hits the air at 9 a.m. Sunday. Titans countdown at 11. Kickoff with Mike Keith, Coach Mack, and the rest of the Titans radio crew is at noon right here on The Zone. Number 11, Tennessee, travels to Florida for a 6 p.m. kickoff in the Swamp. The Vols looking for their first win in Gainesville since 2003. Kickoff again at 6 p.m. Catch the Vol Network coverage right here on The Zone. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Happy Friday. Welcome in. Hope you are having a great start to your morning, heading into your afternoon. We're happy to have you guys here. Be always happy to have Coach Mack in just about 15 minutes from now. We'll talk about the Titans and the Chargers. We'll also get his perspective on the Gators hosting the Vols this weekend, as he does his coach-to-coach show with Coach Doug Matthews every weekend here on The Zone. 615-737-1045. That's the number. So I wanted to start doing this now that we've got NFL football. The NFL sends us a really handy numbers game, for lack of a better term, that gives you some interesting figures to pay attention to or highlight some things from the week that was in pro football. So every week, every Friday at 11 o'clock, we're going to do this Pick Six segment. There's a couple of numbers that I wanted to toss out there. Lucas, you get these as well?
I do.
So you've seen the latest one?
I have.
Okay. So I wanted to kind of comb through a couple of these because it'll give us an opportunity to talk about some games that do impact the Titans, but we might not otherwise get to. First and foremost, this one, 3 of 4. 3 of the top 4 selections in the 2023 NFL Draft, C.J. Stroud, Will Anderson, both obviously picks of the Houston Texans at 2 and 3, and quarterback Anthony Richardson will be on the field when Indy visits Houston on Sunday in the second straight divisional game for the Colts. They opened with the Jaguars at home. They lost that game. Now they will go to Houston and try and take on a Texans team that really struggled to find anything, to get anything going on the road against Baltimore last week. Just having watched back a few series from that game, Baltimore was ready. They were throwing a lot of stuff at the rookie quarterback. The offensive line situation. Have you been paying attention to what's going on with Houston's offensive line? It's not that they keep signing and trading for dudes. They keep putting them on IR.
Yeah, a lot of injuries.
Early in the season for Houston, unfortunately for them. So
before the season with Titus Howard.
Yeah. That was it a fracture in his hand? Broken bone in his hand?
Either way, he's on IR and going to miss at least 4 weeks.
So that game in particular, as we get ready to talk Titans-Chargers with Coach Mack in just a second, the NFL regards it as historic because it's only the second game in NFL history featuring 2 starting quarterbacks, both under the age of 22. Can you tell me who the last 2 number 1 and number 2 overall picks were, which is a hint because that was not a part of the stat. This is just the first 2 starting quarterbacks, both under the age of 22.
Mariota and Winston?
Yep. Marcus and Jameis in week 1 after the 2015 season.
After the 2015 draft.
After the 2015 draft. So the players with the most pass completions in their first 2 career games in NFL history, Do you know that C.J. Stroud's already on this list?
Say it again. The stat.
That the first, or has the opportunity to get on this list based on his week 1 performance. Do you know how many completions Joe Burrow had through the first 2 weeks of his rookie season?
How many?
In 2020. Do you want to guess?
How many completions?
How many completions? Not attempts, but completions.
I'll say 29.
60.
Whoa. They were slinging it around with Joe.
Well, how many do you think that C.J. Stroud had in his first game?
You're saying he has a chance to beat that?
He has a chance to get onto this list because he completed so many passes in his first NFL game.
24.
28.
Wow.
28 completions against the Ravens. So, again, not really pushing the ball down the field a lot. He was taking some checkdowns where he had to and things like that. But C.J. Stroud, maybe it speaks to the nature of the league. Maybe it speaks to the nature of their passing offense. Because the list of players, I bet you won't guess who's in the top 3. If Joe Burrow is 1, who do you think 2 and 3 are? They're recent.
They're recent?
They're recent.
Talking about rookie quarterbacks.
Rookie quarterbacks.
Oh.
Last 4 years.
Last 4 years. Just tell me.
Herbert.
Tua?
Mike White.
Western Kentucky legend.
57. 57 completions in his first 2 games. So it's going to be interesting to see how Anthony Richardson looks now that they have tape of him in an offensive system that they're going to try and maximize. He had 223, Richardson did, 223 passing yards, both a passing and rushing touchdown last week. He's 21 years and 111 days old.
Yeah, youngest quarterback to ever do that, passing and rushing touchdown in the same game.
If he gets another passing and rushing touchdown against the Texans, he will become the 5th player ever to do so in each of his first 2 career games, which is an interesting list of players. Jake Delhomme is not somebody I would have had on that list.
Isn't he? He's the one that now runs a mushroom farm or something, right? Like in Colorado?
No, that's Jake Plummer.
Jake Plummer, right. I don't know what Jake Delhomme's up to.
Well, Google what Jake Plummer looks like, and then you'll understand why he's living on a mushroom farm right now. Sam Howell, also on this list.
Just from last week or from last season?
Last season. Cam Newton and Hall of Famer Bob Waterfield in 1945.
Wow.
A little bit of distance between those guys. That is going to be an interesting game. Not just because of divisional implications, but to see, all right, how does a defense like DeMeco Ryans, because the defense in Houston, the biggest question that I had about them, and that we'll see play out throughout the course of the season, who's rushing the passer? Because Texans not able to get consistent pressure last year. They dealt with injuries. Obviously, their season, it's not like the guys weren't playing hard because you still have to put things on tape. But DeMeco Ryans, how does he try and go after a rookie quarterback now with the opportunity to have some tape on him? I think that's that's probably the first real speed bump that we'll see for Anthony Richardson.
That's why they drafted the best pass rusher in college football.
Yeah, Will Anderson is going to, Will Anderson is the best pass rusher on the football team. Would you not say? It's only 1 week of football.
I think so. He had a sack in the TFL, a couple QB hits last week.
He's going to make an impact. So, another number to keep an eye on, 30. 7 teams scored at least 30 points in week 1 of the NFL season. The Rams and Niners, who will meet this week, should be a fun game. The Rams I was not expecting. And I don't know, maybe just because enough people were talking about Stafford and what he did over the weekend. And, the fact that Geno, that highlight of Aaron Donald chasing after Geno and him saying, oh, my God, as soon as Aaron Donald comes through the middle of the line like a Tasmanian devil and is in his face in, half a second flat.
Geno had a tough day.
Geno did have a tough day. Stafford did not. Stafford was dealing, as was, at least Puka Nacua was on the receiving end of a lot of that success. Tutu Atwell, who was, somebody who I did not expect to be a factor.
Two of the most popular fantasy football pickups
after
the week.
After Cooper Kupp? Or just after their week 1?
Yeah. Puka and Tutu.
Anyway, so 30 points. 7 teams scored at least 30 points in Week 15. The Titans achieved half of that number. They scored 15 points in Week 1. So given that the Rams and Niners are going to play this weekend, always good games in the NFC West, they are also 2 of the 4 teams to allow 14 points or fewer in Week 1. So not only good offensive outputs, but defenses that are stout. Steelers weren't able to get anything done against that Niners front. Geno, as Lucas mentioned, struggled significantly, especially with the pressure from the inside. 10 is the third number in this pick 6. 10 wins by road teams in Week 1. Titans not able to win on the road in New Orleans, but 10 other teams were able to do so successfully. Only in 1983 and 2006 had more road teams won in Week 1 in NFL history. So teams finding success on the road early. 12 teams will have their first road game of the season in Week 2, starting with the Vikings, which, of course, played last night and lost to the Eagles. The Chargers on the road in a noon game. You know, we talk about the difficulty of teams going from east to west and teams going from west to east. You know, how much difference 2 hours is going to make in the life of the Los Angeles Chargers as they play, you know, a 10 a.m. kickoff their time. How much that matters for Week 1, who's to say what their game plan is, and then the lack of Austin Eckler and the status of Joey Bosa. Again, with the hamstring not practicing. And we mentioned to start the show that DeAndre Hopkins missed the first 2 days of practice this week with an ankle. Today will be a walkthrough, and Mike Vrabel will either rule him out or questionable by the end of practice today. We'll have injury updates for you, or at least availability updates for you later on.
So Eckler also did not practice.
Eckler not practicing with an ankle. Bosa the hamstring. Bryce R. says, how many teams still haven't scored a touchdown through Week 1 of the NFL season?
Do you know?
I don't know the answer to that question. I can think of 2. Can you name the second?
I know the Texans did not.
The Texans, so that's 3.
Yeah, they had 3 field goals.
Okay, so two teams from the state of Texas, or excuse me, the Cowboys scored.
Cowboys definitely did not.
Cowboys scored. The Giants did not score against the Cowboys. So the Texans, the Giants, and the Titans, 3 teams who we know did not have touchdowns in Week 1. 5 field goals. 5 for 5 was Nick Folk. You've got a kicker. I don't know about anything else.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think it's just those 3.
Bengals.
And the Bengals, of course. Yeah.
Bengals.
So the 4.
So, you know, touchdown would be nice if you're paying it. Because you know that the Chargers are capable. And the Chargers' game plan is going to be different. We'll talk about the Chargers' game plan and how the Titans expect to game plan for the Chargers coming up next with Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio. Welcome back to the show. Friday at 11:20. The music in the air. Coach Dave McGinnis right around the corner. Presented by Two Rivers Ford, the best in the business. You know it is Two Rivers Ford. Coach Dave McGinnis shops there. DeAndre Hopkins does too. Don Davenport, Ramon Foster, and myself, all customers at Two Rivers. 40 years of exceptional quality, American-made Ford vehicles and award-winning customer service. Go to tworiversford.com, powered by Ford, driven by people. Two Rivers always makes Coach Mac's visits possible across the 4 shows throughout the course of the week. And it's going to be a great matchup between two teams who already need to get in the winning side of the margin in week 2. Two AFC opponents, a little bit of an AFC throwback game. Chargers and Titans taking place at Nissan Stadium. Mac, before we talk game, happy Friday to you. How excited are you to get back in front of a home crowd?
Well, yeah, this is what you want to do. Of course, I always, as a coach, when you lose a game, you're looking forward to the next one so that you can win one, and that's what this is about. But for the home crowd, I'm also very, very much into that. What, we got no Ben Jones today?
No Ben Jones today. Would you want me to ask Ben if he'll do every Friday? Did you have fun last week, Mac?
Well, I mean, I love talking ball with Ben Jones. Ben Jones knows a little ball. Yeah, he's outstanding. Not that you don't, but Ben Jones is a legit dude talking ball. Yeah, anytime I can talk to Ben Jones, I'm happy.
I was going to say, it sounds like it was refreshing for you, Coach.
Yeah, Lucas is delighting in the idea that Coach Mack sounded refreshed talking ball with an actual football player as opposed to a vulture like me. Yeah, I get it.
Well,
I get it, Mac.
You're
I'm not Ben
vulture.
Jones.
I didn't say that, but I do know that Lucas during the broadcast was telling you to be quiet. So Lucas was interjecting himself too.
Yeah, see, eat it. I'm not coachable. Get out of here. Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio, presented by Two Rivers Ford, powered by Ford, driven by people. So not the result, obviously, that they wanted in New Orleans, Mac, but a lot of things on offense that they had in front of them, just unable to execute. And, of course, that is going to be the emphasis of this week of work against a Chargers opponent that is going to throw them some pretty interesting defensive looks.
Well, the thing that has to happen, Buck, you know this, you followed it long enough. We've got great, sophisticated listeners to this program and Titans fans out there. You can't beat yourself. You know, when you put obstacles in front of yourself that are self-imposed, self-induced. I mean, you know, you can't have the procedure penalties. You can't turn the ball over 4 times with 3 interceptions and 1 block punt. And you just can't continue, you know, to bypass opportunities in a ball game because sooner or later the clock catches up to you, and you just can't do it. So the first thing you got to do is you got to just play your opponent and not help your opponent by beating yourself with some things that are very, very correctable. So you're right. I mean, and every week presents a little bit of a different challenge. I broke down that game, as I always do, for our opponents, and that game against Miami with the Chargers was a track meet. I mean, neither one of them could stop the other one, and so every game presents its own challenges. But the first challenge is to be sound with yourself in what you are doing in all aspects of it.
So, from that standpoint, Mac, the turnovers are going to be what ultimately cost you, but the missed opportunities, I thought, were the more, I don't want to call them interesting mistakes, but the things that jumped out the most. It's just because I was so unaccustomed to seeing Ryan Tannehill playing that out of sorts. He's had turnovers in games before, but, I mean, I don't know what you made of the footwork. I don't know what you made of the operation. We know the Superdome is a difficult place to play, but your evaluation of Ryan Tannehill in that specific game.
Yeah, well, I don't grade the techniques on these players. That's not my job right now. But I mean, you got a veteran quarterback that you can't. And he said it. He's the first one that said it after the game, and he said it all week. And finally, he can't play like that and give your team a chance to win. You just can't do it. Now, why it happened, I don't know. I can't tell you specifically why it happened. I can tell you structurally what went on. When he was forcing the ball to double coverage, and as you said, and he admitted it, missed some open receivers. And the procedure, I mean, we talked about it all week, not just us talking about it makes a difference. They practiced with noise all week, knowing that environment, you're going to have to beat that environment early when you go down there. And then if you start, jumping off sides early because of the noise. That just encourages more noise. So, again, it goes back to the first thing you've got to do is you've got to handle your business before you can handle your opponent.
So with that being said, the Chargers are the next opponent coming here to Nissan Stadium. You mentioned the track meet that was the Miami Chargers game. Tua having an unbelievable game with Tyreek Hill, the way that they were able to move the ball down the field. It feels like, though, for the Chargers offense, Mac, and we'll see what Austin Eckler's availability looks like, it does feel like it might be a little bit of a different game plan offensively for the volume that they were running the ball with against Miami. That doesn't feel like it would be necessarily a game plan that would lend itself to success against a Titans defense.
Well, Kellen Moore, though, now, Buck, he came over from the Cowboys, and if you look at his history, if you go back and we'll watch his play-calling history, it's run the ball first. That's what he did at Dallas, when he had Ezekiel Elliott was rolling, and that's what he's going to do, and he's going to set everything else up with it. And the throwing game is important, but they rushed for 234 yards in that game. And so he's got Eckler, and if Eckler doesn't play, well, they got Joshua Kelly, who's a bigger back there. They got Isaiah Spiller. They're still going to run the football because when you go across the front and look at their front with Rashawn Slater and Zion Johnson, who we really liked in the draft, Corey Linsley's a veteran center, Jamari Salyer, and then Trey Pipkins. They've got a legitimate front. And then what they will do is they will bring in, Gerald Everett, and they use him in the blocking quite a bit, and then Donald Parham, number 89. They use them quite a bit on that on some of those split zone runs that they run to block the edge. So we're going to have to play the run. We've got to play the run without a doubt. You got a young quarterback in Justin Herbert that has thrown for a lot of yards early in his career, but with Keenan Allen, I think you would agree with this. If you watch just nuanced receivers in the league over a career, he's one of the better ones. Looking at that, Joshua Palmer has plenty of speed. Mike Williams is a combat catcher, and that doesn't even take into account, Quentin Johnston, the number one pick, out of TCU, and also, Darius Davis from TCU is a really, really big threat on special teams returning the ball. So they can do both, and they're set up to do both. But Kellen Moore he's going to try to pound you as much as he can to get that second level moved up, and then he's going to really start hurting you with those routes that Keenan Allen runs so well across the middle of the field.
So then moving to the defensive side for L.A., Brandon Staley, we know his background. We know the kind of horsepower that they have on that side of the ball. How are they going to try and attack this Titans offense?
Well, the edge is the thing you got to look at first because they're both speed-to-power guys out there, and Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, elite edge guys, but they're speed-to-power guys. So you're going to have to anchor. You're going to have to anchor at the tackle. You may have to help chip some because most of what they do is speed the power to the back end and just try to road grader the offensive lineman back into the pocket and to the set point. Sebastian Joseph Day, the tackle, he's a huge run player. So is Austin Johnson. But those two edge guys, you're going to have to control those because that's where most of that problem comes from. And then Eric Kendricks, in the middle, is a veteran linebacker that has played very well. And then I think Derwin James is one of the better safeties in the league as far as all-around ability to do a lot of things. Not only cover, play halves, play post, but you can also bring him down and blitz him. And look, Brandon Staley is calling these defenses. I mean, I don't care who he names as his defensive coordinator. He had Ronaldo Hill last year. He's replaced him, but I don't care who has the title of defensive coordinator. Brandon Staley's calling this defense. And that he's going to, especially on first and second down, they're going to pressure, Buck. They're going to pressure. Run blitzes and throwing blitzes, depending on down and distance.
Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Titans open their home slate on Sunday, hosting the Chargers. You can hear Titans Radio on the call. Of course, coverage starts with the Lee Company countdown to kickoff at 9 a.m. Titans countdown at 11. So with that being said, Mac, we don't know the status of DeAndre Hopkins, for example, or Tajay Spears at this point on the offensive side of the football. But from what you saw of this offense under Tim Kelly, what did you how did it, I guess, just strike you, given it's the first time that we've seen the way that they're going to try and deploy these various players?
Well, it's going to be different, game to game. Every game plan is going to be different, but there were some things that I really liked scheme wise. He had two, second half schemed wide open plays on the sideline that we missed. that would have made a huge difference. And the biggest thing is Buck, is the 13 third downs that they had. It was 3rd and 8 plus was what the accumulation of it was. And you've got to do better on 1st and 2nd down. And a lot of that starts with not being able to have procedures and put yourself behind the chains on 1st down, which happened 3 times in that ball game. And you can't do that. I had no problem, with what the flow of it was, but you can't force the ball, but you also can't put yourself into. We've talked on this show a lot about, the percentages as far as what 3rd down is in this league. 3rd and 7 plus goes very much statistically advantage defense. 3rd and 4 or less goes very much statistically advantage offense. You can't be putting yourself in an abundance of 3rd and 8 plus on 3rd down, and that starts with 1st and 2nd down, Buck.
Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Mac, we had Arden Key on the radio show yesterday, and the front of the Titans obviously, lived up to the expectation that I think everybody had of them. I know the Saints did make some adjustments and were chipping and keeping tight ends in a little more in the second half to try and give Carr a little extra time to get some passes off. But for the most part, it felt like Key fit in really, really well with the stunts and games that they're playing up front.
Yeah, I think Arden Key is exactly what we've thought all along, watching him, during the spring and then watching him in training camp. I mean, this guy's got energy. He can bend off of the edge. He's also got some power. I mean, when he's in the ball game, he's an excellent rotational piece that comes in there. And he showed up. He showed up in a huge way. We had one huge play taken away from us. I'm not going to get into the officiating, which I could, but I won't. But the thing to me is, I mean, this guy, he's got to continue to do that, and this front has to continue to do that, Buck. I mean, this defense has got to continue to stand up. Mike Vrabel said it. I mean, he put it in their hands in 4 minutes. So when it's in your hands, you've got to be able to stand up and do it. Just like if the 4-minute offense is put into the offense's hands to close it out, you have to do it. That's just the way the National Football League works. But Arden Key, I think they were very pleased with him, and he'll always tell you that he could do more. But we saw the energy, and we also saw the ability to come off of the edge, and that's what I liked.
So, Mac, I know you said you don't want to get into the officiating, but, I'm sitting there as a reporter in a post-game press conference trying to ask Mike Vrabel about these things while not getting him fined, essentially, because I'm not trying to set him up for failure. But, he's saying to us it's just consistency more than anything, just looking for consistency in the calls. And even as somebody on the competition committee, there's only so much he can do to help enforce or, promote consistency of officiating. I guess the question is what can be done, if anything, to try and get a more consistent product, not just on the field, but on the things impacting the game?
Well, I mean, that's the competition committee. I mean, I've been in those meetings, before when I was the head coach. I mean, that has to happen in the off season. But yeah, he's right. And there's no look. I can talk about it because they can't find me now. When I was a coach for 31 years, I couldn't say a word. And believe me, I tried. The thing. First of all, that crew was a very uneven crew. Ron Torbert was the head official, and that crew was very uneven. How many discussions did they have during that game? That game was 3 hours and 20 plus minutes, correct?
Yes.
I mean, and that's ridiculous. And it was they marked off a 12-yard penalty one time that should have been 10. There's not a 12-yard penalty in the National Football League, that comes from a mark-off. So it was administered very, very poorly. And then, I mean, they completely blew the call on the strip sack and the fumble, and they'll be graded down for that. But that doesn't help your team. It doesn't help your organization. It doesn't help your fan base when you have a touchdown taken away at a critical time. But look, Mike Vrabel's right. He can't say anything. He really can't. But you can look at it and tell that it was not officiated correctly. But there's not anything you can do about it except, challenge when you have to challenge. I thought that the first challenge was a really, really smart challenge with great information from upstairs. But when you're constantly having to challenge calls that you shouldn't have to, it makes the game very, very uneven. And look, I'm not blaming officiating, for winning or losing the game. I just know after 38 years what I'm looking at. If a game is officiated procedurally correctly, that one wasn't in some instances that were pretty glaring.
He's Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio. Not only is he on the call for Titans Radio, you can check out the OTP, the official Titans podcast. You can check out Coach Mac's breakdowns on TennesseeTitans.com as he gets you ready for another opponent. And, of course, Coach to Coach that he does with Coach Dave Matthews, talking about the world of college football and Doug Matthews.
Dave Matthews has got a band. I haven't been in a band with him lately, but I might.
I was about to say, it's not like it's not the most far-fetched thing. Like if you told me, Mac, if you sat me down and told me a story about you playing in a band with Dave Matthews, I'd probably believe you because of the background that you have. So I don't think it's the most far-fetched thing in the world.
What instrument, Coach?
No. I'd just be up there on the stage. I'd be like Flavor Flav. I'd be a hype man.
We got to get him a clock. Coach Dave McGinnis here with us on 104.5 The Zone. The Coach to Coach show you can catch with Coach Doug Matthews talking about the world of the SEC. Big one for the Vols in the Swamp.
Oh, yeah.
This Saturday, Mac. We've talked about execution for the Tennessee Titans. Execution is a key word for the Vols on offense as well. What are you most excited to see from this particular matchup?
Well, the Vols have to be better procedurally, too. I mean, first of all, those bubble screens, those 2- and 3-man bubble screens are really a continuation or extension of their run game. They've got to get that cleaned up with the holding out there. They were very uneven offensively against Austin Peay. So they've got to get that. They have to get that cleaned up. They've got 3 running backs in there, with Wright, Small, and Sampson that are really SEC caliber backs. And so, as much as everybody wants to talk about the throwing game for this offense, it's predicated on getting people to bite up on the run. And so they've got to continue to do that. And that's going to be critical, but they need to be cleaner on offense this ball game, especially. And look, defensively, they've done a really nice job. They've got about 7 dudes on that defensive front that can bring it, and they're very, very stout against the run. I think Aaron Beasley back there at linebacker is playing an exceptional linebacker right now. And the thing that they can't do is just let the ball go over their head, and that's going to be important. When they're up there in press man, be able to turn and find the ball. So, Doug Matthews and I went over it, point by point for that hour show that we're due that is going to air, tomorrow. And so, look, this is a huge game. And here, you talk about managing an environment. They've got to manage the swamp because that's going to be rolling.
If you bet the over on Coach Mac Flavor Flav references today, you cashed in. Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio on the call of the Titans and the Chargers. Noon, the kickoff coverage starts at 9 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone and across the Titans Radio Network. Thank you for the time, Mac. I'll see you in the booth.
Buck, I will see you in the booth, man, and you can never mention Two Rivers Ford enough. See you, guys.
Indeed. Two Rivers Ford, powered by Ford, driven by people. I don't know why I think I saw a Dave Matthews like Instagram ad or something like that recently. Got crash into me on the brain. Ants marching. Are you a Dave Matthews person?
Little baby.
What is that limited Dave Matthews impression? Do it again.
No. I've seen Dave 3 times.
Have you?
Yeah, because when I was in high school, he just came to Birmingham like every year. That dude, I don't know if he still does, but when I was growing up, that dude toured like crazy.
No, the Caravan, it's still a thing. Like that was a big thing for my friends in high school and in college. Like every year he would do like a 2-day or 3-day like Caravan show at the amphitheater in Indianapolis. People camp out. It's a whole ordeal.
Man. Yeah, I saw somehow I fell into tickets every time he was in town. So I'm not going to say I'm a Dave Matthews diehard. His music is great. He's very talented, and he puts on a great show.
I mean, I take it or leave it. It all sounds like the same song for the entire concert, but it's fine. I like it. It's vibey, especially if you're out there hanging out with your buddies or just enjoying the music and the atmosphere. 615-737-1045 is the number. Friday Fire. That's next. The Tennessee Men's Clinic Welcome back. So, Fridays, everybody's in a good mood. Weather feels like fall. No, the results for Titans fans weren't what you were looking for. No, the Vols fans weren't overwhelmingly happy with their result against Austin Peay, but it's a new weekend. It's a new opportunity. Look at me being positive. It must be Friday Fire.
I wasn't ready.
Oh, what the hell?
I was playing Dave.
I was doing a whole thing.
Name the song.
I was saying, I don't know. They all sound the same.
Gray Street.
Buck Rising is one of the least positive people on the planet. So to combat that, we've installed a new segment where he's forced to be positive. Sponsored by Central Barbecue. This is Friday Fire.
Cause it's Friday, you ain't got no job, and you ain't got shit to do.
How can you help make the positivity segment negative? How? It's really a special skill.
Who's negative here?
Nobody but me, I guess. Friday Fire is presented by Central Barbecue. EatCBQ.com. Lunch or dinner. Memphis-style competition-level barbecue. Slow and smoky. Beautiful, beautiful Memphis barbecue. When you go to Central Barbecue, their Hillsborough Village location. Do you have a preference as far as your favorite of the barbecue tacos that they sent us last week?
Oh.
The pork, the chicken, or the brisket?
I'm a sucker for pulled pork barbecue tacos. I don't know why. They're all awesome.
There's nothing wrong with the classic.
Yeah.
And pulled pork, classic.
I just feel like pulled pork is, when it comes to brisket, like I'll eat a brisket taco, but I love brisket in a sandwich. I mean, pulled pork, it's all good, man. This is too hard.
All of the tacos. Because he ate all of the tacos. No, they introduced me to smoke wings. I'll never go back. They're awesome. EatCBQ.com. Okay, so the Deion Sanders saga has been one that is well documented. It's the biggest story in college football, no? But the Colorado State coach, Colorado's opponent this week, is Colorado State. And the Colorado State coach does not like the way that Deion Sanders conducts his press conferences. Saying basically that he, doesn't wear sunglasses, that he takes his ball cap off, that he's prim and proper, in essence, and that he doesn't believe in people who conduct themselves that way. Not naming Deion specifically, though everybody knows, including Coach Prime, who the Colorado State coach is talking about.
Why don't you let Jay Norvell tell it?
Can we?
And I sat down with ESPN today, and I don't care if they hear it in Boulder. I told them I took my hat off and I took my glasses off, and I said, when I talk to grown-ups, I take my hat and my glasses off. That's what my mother taught me. So,
I'm sorry. Who is applauding him?
A little smattering of applause.
Who is applauding? Yeah.
Yes.
Take your hat off.
So that's at Jay Norvell's coach's show the other day.
Oh, my God. All right. So this is like the Brian Kelly thing. Did you see the clip of Brian Kelly going around from his coach's show where he's saying we're gonna beat the hell out of Florida State or something like that, and then somebody ran the comments back to him later? It's like I never said anything like that.
Wasn't me. AI.
AI Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly already seems like a form of AI.
He already seems like
it's
AI.
like Darren Ravel. Anyway, the response from Deion is my Friday Fire. Do you have the comments from Deion? Because Jay Norvell. Whatever. Congratulations to you. You take your sunglasses off. You take your hat off when ESPN comes to talk to you. Because the only damn reason ESPN's coming to talk to you at Colorado State is because you're playing whom? The guy with his hat on and his sunglasses on and the guy who runs college football this year. You dope. Let me hear from Coach Prime.
This is Prime talking to his team on the practice field.
Yes, sir. I'm minding my own business, watching some film, trying to get ready. Trying to get out here and be the best coach I could be. And I look up and I read some bull junk that Dan said about us.
Talk to us.
Once again.
Talk to us.
Why would you want to talk about us when we don't talk about nobody? All we do is go out here, work our butts off, and do our job on Saturday. But when they give us ammunition, they done messed around and made it what? It was just going to be a good game. They done messed around and made it. It was going to be a great test, a battle of Colorado, but they done messed around and made it personal.
You what happened to them last security guards?
I love it. I love it.
I love the way he talks to that football team.
I love the way that they talk back to him.
Yeah, you can tell that there's a connection there. And then that's a video where later he breaks it down. Just the joy that is on the face of every single one of those players.
Give me my theme music.
Oh, my God, man.
I love it.
Yeah, like what he's doing there is just remarkable.
They may lose to USC or Oregon or, one of these teams at some point because their schedule is hellacious in, the best conference in college football this year.
They're going to be 3-0 this week.
The Pac-12. But Jay Norvell, you dope. What are you doing? To have a moment of sad applause at whatever Applebee's you're having, your Colorado State, unless, Applebee's wants to spend money on the show, and then, of course, we will do every show from Applebee's. But in the meantime, whatever sad venue that you're doing your Colorado State coaches show from, to whatever small smatterings of applause that you got when you told your hostile environment, your home crowd, that you take your hat off and you take your sunglasses off when you talk to adults because you're an adult, Jay Norvell. Congratulations. You're an adult who's going to lose by 25, and you deserve it.
Dion, so game days at Colorado State, Colorado.
Lucky for Colorado State. Thank you, Dion. Say thank you, Jay Norvell.
First Take is broadcasting from Boulder today.
Say thank you, Jay Norvell.
Now, Boulder is where Colorado is.
No, I know. I'm just saying for the attention on the game.
But sure, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Colorado State, it's a late kick, 9 p.m. type of kickoff. But Dion, for his interview with Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp and everybody, came and he handed out sunglasses and hats. He handed out shades to everyone on the football team in the team meeting. And so there's just these videos of their team meeting room and every player is wearing the Dion shades.
They all look like the Blues Brothers.
It's amazing. Yeah, this is so stupid. This could also qualify for the dumbest thing in sports. You know what the spread is in this game?
Not enough.
23.5.
Not
just
enough.
A PSA for a Colorado State team that lost 50-24 to Washington State a week ago at home. Can you tell me how many games Colorado State has won since the start of the 2019 season, as Jay Norvell is here in his second season as the head coach?
Wait. He's in the second season.
He's in his second year, but just to get a glimpse of what this program has been.
Okay.
How many games have the Rams won since the start of the 2019 year?
I mean, I know them to be a terrible program. I'll say 10.
11.
Oh.
So, yeah, good luck, Colorado State. Jay Norvell, do your football team some favors, man. What are you doing?
I hope they get splattered. Everybody is rooting against Colorado State because of this. Or at least they should be, unless you're deeply repressed and also think that you need to take your hat off and sunglasses off when you talk to adults because that makes you more of an adult. Like just, who says that? Like with a serious face and said, yeah, beats their chest afterwards. Said, yeah, I made a point. Score one for the adults. Go sit at the kids' table, Dion, while you do Aflac commercials next to the greatest coach of all time because you're the second most important coach in college football.
You're already up against it. I don't know why you do that if you're Jay Norvell. But speaking of guys that are up against it, from one coach's show to another, Nick Saban on Hey Coach, live from Baumhauer's in Alabama earlier this week, fielded a call from Pee Wee, who is a famed caller into Nick Saban's coach's show. Typically will call in. He'll ask Saban the tough questions. He's been doing it for years. This was Pee Wee's call into Nick Saban this week on Hey Coach after Alabama's loss at home to Texas.
Coach, how are you, sir?
Well, Pee Wee, I've been wanting to talk to you all week, man. I mean, we got to firm up the pocket. We're setting too soft. We're getting pushed back in the middle. All right, everybody thinks we can't hold up against the blitz, but they're sacking us with 4-man rush, 1 3-man rush. Only 1 sack came off of a pressure, so I wanted to ask you what the hell's going on.
I believe you covered it all right there, Coach.
I love that from Nick Saban.
That's great.
Yeah. Nick Saban is the type of coach that enjoys talking about losses more than wins. Because when he's talking about wins, he's having to fight off the rat poison and talk about where they have to be better. But with losses, it's easy for him to talk about those things.
He's got a smile on his face as he tells his team they weren't good enough.
An easier message to get across. That yummy rat poison. Now, the more that turns into losses, obviously the bigger of a problem it is. But we'll see if Alabama can fix those issues at scrappy South Florida on Saturday. Still can't understand why.
At South Florida.
It makes no sense.
You know who else is like that after losses?
Vrabel.
Damn Vrabel. Yeah. It's so maddening because I get why they do it. That you're trying to not let your team get comfortable by saying, yeah, they did all these things great and saying it to the media and saying it to them and letting them get, resting on their laurels and things like that. But Mike, after a loss, is so much easier to talk to than he is after a win, and it cracks me up. Like we always expect the better press conferences. It's not just Vrabel, though. Derrick Henry is like that, too. Derrick can have, the 4-touchdown, damn near 300-yard game against the Jags again and have a worse press conference or be less joyous at a press conference than he is after not joyous, I don't want to say joyous, but like less forthcoming than he is after losses like the one that they experienced in New Orleans. It's always funny to me. Anyway, 615-737-1045. DeAndre Hopkins, his status is in doubt against the Chargers. We'll talk about it coming up next.
It is 12:01. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. The Tennessee Titans host the Los Angeles Chargers for the home opener Sunday at Nissan Stadium. Running back Tyjae Spears did return to practice as a full participant on Thursday. Christian Fulton and Tier Tart, both limited. Safety Amani Hooker did not practice, still in concussion protocol. Wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins also did not practice as he deals with an ankle. The League Company countdown to kickoff hits the air at 9 a.m. on Sunday. Titans countdown at 11, and kickoff with Mike Keith, Coach Mack, and the rest of the Titans radio crew is at noon right here on The Zone. Number 11, Tennessee, travels to Florida for a 6 p.m. kickoff in the Swamp. The Vols looking for their first win in Gainesville since 2003. Kickoff at 6 o'clock. Vol Network coverage on The Zone starts at 4. Tonight, the 104.5 The Zone high school football game of the week is at Lipscomb Academy as the Mustangs host the Ensworth Tigers in a D2 AAA matchup. Pre-game coverage starts at 6:45. Kickoff is at 7. Friday Night Finals takes you home until 11 o'clock. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour. Where'd the show go? Happy Friday. Moving right along. 615-737-1045. That's how you join us if you haven't been here already. If you have, thanks for hanging. Jump in on the F&M Bank chat if you so choose. We have shall I call it a message? What should I do with this DeAndre Hopkins post that he's put up on Instagram about 2 hours ago? So, of course, if you joined us at the start of the show, you know that DeAndre Hopkins last 2 days did not practice, dealing with an ankle injury. A lot of you have asked the question, when did it happen? I would invite you to go back and look at the final offensive play, which probably hurts you more than it would if it happened earlier in the fourth quarter or something like that.
The third down before the 4th and 6 where Vrabel decides to kick a field goal.
Yes. He gets rolled up on by a linebacker and leaves the game, does not return. Now, at the time, because it was the end of the game was out of hand, we didn't really talk about it, and he talked to us in the locker room. There wasn't a question about his health when it was just, I think, 4 of us that were left in the locker room with him because he was the last player to talk other than Derrick Henry. We were over there, and not one of us, Wyatt, Kaharski, Tehran, Rexroad, or myself, asked him about his health because, to the best of our knowledge, he had finished the game at that point. So now he doesn't practice. Today is a walkthrough, and he posts this on Instagram 2 hours ago. Of course, the Titans will have already been out on the practice field today. Mike Vrabel will speak at 12:45, and we'll keep you updated with the information that results out of that. But this is from DeAndre Hopkins. It says, "Trust in the process. It's a marathon." Okay. Now, that doesn't inherently rule him out, but it does not give you good feelings about him playing in the home opener, or at least I wouldn't think. Now, that's just speculation. We don't know for sure. We'll see if Mike Vrabel rules him flat out at 12:45 today, or if there is a questionable designation for DeAndre Hopkins. But it is safe to assume that if he didn't practice on Wednesday or Thursday and Friday the walkthrough, that his availability would be, questionable at best. Jim Freaking Nat says, "Say it, he's out." I mean, I don't know that he's out specifically. I don't know why you would want to rule him out before absolutely necessary if you're the Titans. But, I think it's going to immediately put or give people a bad feeling, right? It's an ankle. The extent of that doesn't seem to be much information out there about it. I've seen the Twitter doctors out there with high ankle stuff, and I'm not doing that. I don't, we tell you perpetually.
For DHop?
Yeah.
I had not seen that.
Your boy Chow. Please do not take the Twitter doctor's advice. Can I just make that a rule in general, whether that's, injuries to your favorite football players, whether that's medical advice that you're receiving on the internet? Probably don't get your medical advice from the internet. See
I'm
a
going
physician.
to write a letter to Elon about Twitter doctors.
Of all the things, he's more likely to address the Twitter doctor thing than he is to fix my feed, my home feed, to where it's showing things that I, might be interested as opposed to the things that I'm actually following, which drives me insane because I don't know what I'm looking at either way.
Dearest Elon.
So with Hopkins, if he doesn't play on Sunday, it's going to start. Like the Julio stuff is going to start. Whether that's a fair parallel for you to draw or not, it's going to start. And, he's 31. His importance in a game in September, be it a conference game against an opponent that figures to be in it once the postseason picture starts to really take shape, you need to win this game. The Chargers need to win this game. If DeAndre Hopkins isn't available, you have to find a way to win it without him. Are they capable of winning the game without him? I mean, it gets harder, for sure. It's kind of, what I'm interested to see? Because the targets were so heavily skewed in Hopkins' direction. You remember this theory with Baker and Odell, where Baker Mayfield played quarterback more efficiently because he wasn't trying to force it to Odell?
Yes.
It was quantifiable. The Baker Mayfield was a more rhythmic quarterback when Odell Beckham Jr., ironically enough, was not on the field. And you would say, well, that's ridiculous. Why would the better wide receiver, or arguably the best wide receiver that the Browns had during that span, how would that make the quarterback better? Well, he didn't feel as much pressure to get the ball to Odell. Now, that's not a situation. I don't know that that's a situation that we're experiencing here, but if Hopkins isn't out there and the targets become more evenly distributed and he doesn't feel like he's trying to force things, can that come into play? Potentially. I don't know the answer to that question. These are, this is just things that we're keeping an eye on as we head into this game, not knowing for sure if DeAndre Hopkins is out yet, but the messaging and the practice participation or lack thereof, it's trending towards a doubtful appearance by DeAndre Hopkins.
None of what you said matters if they can't find success in the run game. The Titans.
None of it matters? Why does none of it matter?
I think they got to be able to run the football against the Chargers.
Okay, but that you value that against the Chargers more than you do their passing game?
The Titans' passing game?
Yes, none of it matters if they can't run the football?
Yeah. I don't think they're going to find success in the passing game if they can't run the football on Sunday.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I'm not
third and 8.
I'm not sitting there saying none of it matters. I mean, the whole premise of this offense is to not be so reliant on the rushing attack. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't have games where you rely on your rushing attack if that's the better matchup for you. And is that the better matchup for them in this game? Potentially. Chargers passing defense didn't look that great. Pass rushers like Bosa and Mack were struggling against Dolphins tackle. Teron Armstead did not play for Miami last week. I don't know if the tackles for the Dolphins have not been good.
I told you yesterday. It was Titans legend Kendall Lamb at left tackle.
Titans legend. That was one of the more surprising results from the weekend, is that the Chargers couldn't get pressure on a Dolphins offensive line that I don't know to be very good. In fact, I've seen Kendall Lamb play. Kendall Lamb is, not very good.
Chargers had 2 hurries.
That's what I'm saying.
In that game.
So I don't know if that's a product of the offense and how they were mitigating the pressure, but I don't think you can necessarily rely on that being the case. Now, maybe they're saying, all right, Tua, come out here and try and beat us. I would think that would be a fool's errand in the first game of the season when Tua's healthy, Tyreek's healthy, and Mike McDaniel's out there dicing them up, because it didn't work to the advantage of the Chargers. Chargers couldn't get a stop. But I don't think they need to run the football for the sake of running the football. If the matchup favors that, then yeah, come out, just beat them down with Derrick Henry if you want to, if that's the better matchup. But based on what the Chargers passing defense was unable to do, and more specifically the rush, I would think you could do some stuff with quick game to further slow up that pass rush. I don't think it has to be. I just don't want to go into every week with the Titans, even though Derrick Henry's there, and talk about it being so running game dependent. It doesn't have to be that way. We literally just saw an example of it not having to be that way. And had they missed their passing, had they made their passing opportunities, are we really that, choked up about Derrick Henry's usage in the second half? Maybe, but I don't think so.
It's not about being run game dependent. It's about that those things have to coexist.
Sure. They did last week, though, is what I'm saying.
Right. Sure. Yes,
but
they did find success in the run game last week.
Yes, and they had success in the run game in the first half. They were not having success in the run game in the second half. Derrick Henry had 5 carries, and on 2 of the 5 carries that he got, he gained no yards or lost yardage. Like, there were things that the Saints did to adapt to the running game in the second half. There were things that the Saints did to adapt to the Titans' pass rush in the second half. I don't think that a statement as definitive as it does nothing matters if they can't run the football, I just don't think it has to apply. At least I don't want it to be that definitive. You know what I'm saying?
I guess the better way to put it is you're not going to beat the Chargers the way the Dolphins did.
No. Ryan Tannehill is not. You know what? I don't do predictions. The one thing I'm willing to predict, the one thing I'm willing to guarantee, Ryan Tannehill will not have 466 passing yards on Sunday.
Lock it in.
That I will stake my professional career on. We will finally give the radio show over to Lucas on Monday if Ryan Tannehill throws for 466 yards. But I do think that there are some advantages that they can still have that aren't just because of personnel. Now, is Chig as open? Is Spears as open if Spears ends up going? He was a full participant yesterday after missing Wednesday's practice with a groin injury. I would tell you that the Jaquez Patrick practice squad signing is a signing to keep an eye on with the Tajay Spears availability, because if Spears can't go, I don't know that he can't. We'll find out. I'm sure Mike Vrabel will be asked about it after practice today. But Patrick's presence on the practice squad at least gives them an option should Spears be unavailable. That's why that transaction was made.
Kent on the FNM Bank chat says Derrick Henry needs to be in the game all day, period, against the Chargers. If not, the Titans will be 0-2.
I just don't think it's that definitive anymore. I think Tim Kelly's whole existence is to make it not that definitive. Like, Derrick Henry can do enough in a game. He can have superhuman performances. He doesn't have to do it every week. The whole purpose of this offense is to try and make life easier on him. He doesn't have to do that every week. If he does it this week against the Chargers and you come away and your takeaway. So say Derrick Henry has a vintage Derrick Henry performance against the Chargers. Okay? Not necessarily like a vintage Derrick performance against the Chargers as a specific opponent.
Yeah,
just a vintage Derrick. Just a vintage Derrick performance. Are we going to come out of that game saying Derrick Henry needs to be the only thing that they do offensively after that? No, we're not. But it doesn't mean that they can't. They need to have a variety of different things that they can do, is my point.
It'd be really interesting to see how Tim Kelly calls this game.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's already having to problem solve without Phillips. Potentially now without Hopkins. We'll see. And the solution was, okay, they've got it. The quarterback wasn't hitting it. Which is enough to make you pull your hair out. And also point blame at the offensive coordinator, which is ludicrous because all you're doing is looking at Derrick Henry's second half carries and saying, it's not enough. It's not that cut and dry. 615-737-1045. We can take your phone calls on this. What one thing beyond, let's do it this way. What one thing beyond Ryan Tannehill has to change? And it may be as simple as just Ryan Tannehill. But I think that there's a conversation to be had here for us to talk about matchup advantages with the Chargers that just assume that the quarterback isn't going to have a nightmare performance. We can get into that. We can get into Lucas's BVS because I'm going to flush him out. He's hiding. It's Florida week and he's hiding, and I'm tired of it. We waited till Friday. We can wait no longer. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. We got to talk about BVS. Do we still have the precursor, or what are we calling it? The warning label for BVS? The commercial that we made.
The PSA.
The PSA is the word that I'm looking for. Somewhere in the bowels of the system, I'm going to buy you the requisite time you need to get this commercial, this PSA.
It's buried in Bert's folder here somewhere.
Bert is shockingly organized in said folder, though. No?
Yeah.
Okay. What, now that's the one place you'll take your friend out? His organizational skills?
It's not his prerogative to be organized in a way that I can find things. It's just in a way for him to find things. But I do have trouble finding stuff. And vice versa. If Bert was trying to dig up something from my A drive folder in here, then he would have a hard time.
Scary Harry Flanagan in the F&M Bank chat says, VBS, Vacation Bible School? No. BVS, Battered Vols Syndrome. This is something that I think is characteristic of the fan base, and it's something I've been thinking about this ever since I moved to the state of Tennessee. Now, in fairness, you are a tortured fan base. You have been until recent success, but in past years, and even still, as you have had success recently, BVS still lingers.
Do you suffer from flashbacks to a blocked field goal in 2009? Or wake up in a cold sweat thinking about a 2015 Oklahoma game? If this is describing you, you might suffer from battered Vols syndrome. Millions of people worldwide are affected by BVS. Symptoms include anticipating the worst-case scenario in every situation, shortness of breath in the fourth quarter, or nightmares about the Florida Gators. Let's hear from one former Vols season ticket holder who was affected by BVS so dramatically they had to change their collegiate fandom. Their voice has been altered to protect their identity.
I don't even know how this happened, man. We were doing so good with Peyton, and now every time I walk into Cracker Barrel and see them kids playing on them checkerboards, I just don't know what to do. I swear, man, I'll be watching football sometimes and they'll have a 12-man on the field penalty and wham! I'm right back there and North Carolina's about to kick that field goal to take a lead and win in overtime and I just can't take it. I root for the Hilltoppers just so I can have some sanity on football Saturday.
Tragic. Absolutely tragic. If you or a loved one suffers from BVS, do something today. For more information, call 615-737-1045. And remember, go Vols.
I think that's the first on-air bit we did with him.
It might be, yeah. It just keeps going with the altered voice.
BVS, you have been hiding all week long. You back there. I've got Slay pounding his chest, screaming at callers, cutting wrestling promos because it's Gator Hate Week. I've got Ramon Foster talking about how much he hates the Florida Gators, letting it seep through his soul. Will Bowling has had more animus about Florida this week than you have.
What do you want from me?
I want you to stop hiding. I want you to stop
being hiding from. We've been talking about the game all week.
No. We have been talking about the game all week. Because I feel like I have come up with Vols topics to talk about the game this week. I feel like this is as reticent as you have been to talk about a Florida-Tennessee game in the 3 years that we've been doing the radio show.
What are you talking about? It was the SEC stat of the day. We've been breaking it down all week. I don't understand what you want. Like this, you just want me to do like a Slay-like rant.
No, I don't.
And that's not, like, I'm not Ron Slay.
I'm aware. I'm aware. I want you to stop being scared, unless you are scared. If you're scared, it's okay. I'm just trying to determine your level of BVS this week because we have not checked in. And the first time that we did really this morning, it started to seep into your analysis.
Of course I'm scared.
And you told everybody that this was Joe Milton's first real career road start in the swamp at night against Florida. That is why I want to know why you're hiding. One way or the other. It's okay to have emotions about your sports team. You do a good job of trying to hide it. I don't know why you do this professional, or maybe you feel the need to. I don't know. But I feel like the first time that we brought BVS up this week was this morning in the 10 o'clock hour, and immediately it soaked into your system, and now you're having panic texts from your roommates because you've scared them too.
I don't know what you want from me. We're just talking about the game. Just trying to talk about the game in a measured, even-keeled manner. All right?
You know, it's
all
why?
that's happening here.
No, I don't want that. It's Florida week. Anytime you talk to me, you how many times in my life or in our professional lives together have you questioned my sports fandom until you saw me watch an Indiana basketball game with sheer terror on the air live with Slay in studio during March Madness?
I never questioned your Indiana basketball fandom.
When I see you watch a Tennessee game, and frankly, when I pay somebody at this wedding to keep a camera on you during the Tennessee-Florida game, it is, we've talked about it, like something out of the movie Gremlin, where you cannot be fed after midnight, otherwise you will turn into a rage-soaked, covered in spines monster screaming, "Go Vols," and murder him! As you were in public at a bar at the poor Monmouth quarterback running for his life. I want that. Why can't I have that? People want that. They don't want Banner. They want the Hulk.
That's not me. I'm sorry. That's
what do you mean?
not.
I've seen it.
I get it. When the ball kicks off, like all bets are off. Like when the game is happening and things are on the line and the stakes are all there and happening in real time, like all bets are off and I'm ripping my hair out of my head. Like I get that, but I don't know, man. It's just not. That's not my personality. Like 24/7. It's just something that creeps in when the ball is kicked off of a Tennessee football game. I can't explain it. It's otherworldly and extraterrestrial. Something just takes over me. But like when we're talking about the game, I'm going to talk about it. I tried to remove that so that I could talk about the game from as neutral perspective as possible, so we can have as real a conversation about the game as possible.
Fort on the F&M Bank chat says you've got to be in a low place to be questioned by Buck about not being enough of a fan. I'm not questioning that he's not enough of a fan. I'm questioning his confidence level that he claims to have about this Tennessee team going down to Florida and winning.
I think Tennessee wins the game. I think Tennessee will win the game. All that we have been doing are talking about the things that have to take place for Tennessee to win the game. Right? Like that's what this week has been. That's it. I do think that Tennessee wins because Tennessee is the better team. They are the more talented team. And more often than not, I'm going to pick that side of it. I'm not going to lean on some outside BVS trauma that has impacted my psychology over the course of my 27 years of my life. That's not going to affect my pick of the game. I think Tennessee wins.
I'm gonna have my therapist come in here and do like a session with you on the air about BVS. I feel like we should do this. I feel like that would be great comedy. That or we hook a lie detector up to you.
That would be I think that would be very beneficial for me.
You said that the only thing that's really caused you trauma because you were fortunate to have a great childhood is the Tennessee Volunteers football program.
100%. Nothing has caused me more trauma than Tennessee football. I also grew up in the worst era of Tennessee football. Like my first taste of it as a fan was probably the 2006 and then 2007 season is where I just, like fifth grade, suddenly all in. For whatever reason, became all in, and 07's a 10-win year where we lose in the SEC championship, and then since then it's just been trauma. So yeah, it has affected me, and there's been some tough times in Gainesville. But I believe that Tennessee is going to win this game. I think Josh Heupel has the right mindset about this game. He has constantly deflected any talk about the last 20 years because it has no impact on what's going to happen on Saturday. Does it have an impact on me and my psychology and how afraid I am? Yes, absolutely. I'm terrified. But it's not going to impact that locker room and that coaching staff.
Your fear?
And that is what gives me confidence.
Oh, I don't know. Because and I'm not talking about you specifically, but there is enough of this that seeps into everything that is talked about around this game. For me to say that it's impossible for that to have an impact on the locker room, I don't think that's too far-fetched. Like, truly. Just because these are, I mean, I know Milton's 30, but like, these are college kids playing at a program that's as big a fishbowl or as scrutinized a fishbowl as any in college football. Is it not, Tennessee? I mean, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, like top Notre Dame, top tier, top brand, biggest focal point or among them in college football. Tennessee is that. And this is a team that, whether the expectations are about them or about the future, we've yet to determine. Right? At least it seems like most Vols fans have run it through that prism that Joe is the guy to get you to the guy, right? But still, having an opportunity like this at Florida, a place where you don't win very much in recent history, and there being a little bit of BVS sprinkled into everything that you do, and for me to say that the players can't be at least somewhat cognizant of that, no, it's impossible. They're all on social media.
Didn't affect this team last season against Florida. Didn't affect this team against Alabama last season. I don't buy that is seeping into the locker room and that's a concern.
Monsoon says, say it, Lucas. Say, I believe we will win. Say it.
Yes, I have said it already. I think Tennessee wins the game. I believe that Tennessee is going to win the football game.
Blue is texting me. You're right. Don't let him worm out of it. He needs to inspire. People are looking to you. You're a public figure.
You
have a platform.
I'm not an inspirational person. I'm
Trust me, I know.
Yeah,
I walk in here. Hey, Lucas, which Titans player should I ask for this week? I don't care. You're doing the interview.
You want to get hype about the Vols game? Watch Ron Slay's rant from earlier this week.
I'm not talking to Slay.
Watch it on repeat. He'll have you ready to run through a brick wall.
I'm not talking to Slay. I'm talking to you. That's why we're doing this today. Because the BVS has been there and we haven't talked about it. It's been unaddressed. This is how things get toxic in a relationship. You let it go, you let it simmer, you let it eat at you, and then all of a sudden it explodes from your chest like that creature in Alien.
Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's much less that you're. I'm worried because you're going to be at a wedding. You're not going to be in a safe place.
No, I'm not. In Birmingham, Alabama. Nobody's going to be on my side.
People aren't going to be sympathetic to your cause. You're going to be berating the bride and groom. You're going to be berating the parents for how dare you schedule a Saturday wedding in the state of Alabama. I'm surprised they're even legal.
I know. It is shocking.
There's weirder stuff that's illegal in Alabama. Why would Saturday weddings in the fall not be illegal?
It is shocking. Yeah. They're going to be like, what's the most popular wedding song?
On Cupid Shuffle?
Yeah, Cupid Shuffle's going to be playing, and a couple of my friends be coming over and doing the fake mime rope at me and pulling it. Come on, shut up, It's 3rd and 4.
You just see whatever paperweight you got at your seat launched at somebody's head.
Leave me alone. So I got caught in this last season when Tennessee played Kentucky. My girlfriend Megan, one of her best friends was getting married. She was in the wedding, and I was there. It was in Huntsville, Alabama, when Tennessee was playing Kentucky, and I was, kind of similar things. It was a Kentucky game, so obviously that game's brought me a lot of joy over the years, unlike the Florida matchup. So, but that game's a blowout, right? I mean, first quarter, it's like 20-0 or something, and it was awesome.
As Titans fans will very, very quickly remind Will Levis.
I'm watching the game on my phone at the dinner table, and I'm just having a great time, and I'm able to disassociate from the game at some point because it's 44 to whatever, and I can just enjoy the night. That's what I need out of Saturday.
Look at you. You're back there gritting your teeth. See, we're close. We're close. All we have to do is rattle the cage a little bit back there. He's literally in a cage back there for 3 hours a day. So every once in a while, it's such a sterilized environment that we have to find ways to wake him up a little bit. But I do think that there is, Tennessee is a popular upset pick this week. If you're just looking at people who
Florida is.
Yeah, well, Tennessee as a team to be upset is a popular pick. Florida is a popular pick. Yes, that's the way that I should have phrased it. Thank you. That's only going to feed into this. Wait, that's not our Robert, is it?
No.
I'm not doing.
I'm not doing that.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that today. But this is something that's going to be discussed. If you listen to gambling podcasts, that's a pick that's being given out. It's a very popular pick that's being given out. Florida over Tennessee, not just to cover, but to win straight up. And like Lucas is saying, every indicator based on what we have seen through 2 weeks of Florida and 2 weeks of Tennessee is that Tennessee is capable of winning that game. Whether they play to their, level of competency that we believe them to not yet have reached, that we didn't see against Virginia because they weren't clean offensively, that we didn't see, obviously, against Austin Peay because they weren't clean offensively. I don't know if 2 weeks is enough to iron out the dropsies. Because the one thing that's only going to further derail Joe Milton, who's not a great rhythmic quarterback anyway, is to cause him to start and stop with the amount of drops that they've had through the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, you got to help him.
Now, can Milton help the receivers? I don't know if Milton is not throwing a catchable enough ball, because that's an accusation that I've seen lobbied. I'm not on the receiving end of one of those Joe Milton passes, nor am I capable of being. So I can't speak to that part of the exchange specifically. But at some point, these drops have to stop. The 80-yard touchdown that Ramel Keaton just lets go has to be caught. These opportunities that they have to sustain offense, because it's not just about the explosive plays, to prolong drives, to keep yourself from having these rapid-fire 3-and-outs that we talk about are one of the potential drawbacks that you have in this style of offense.
The prolonged drives are rapid-fire enough, right? Like, the prolonged drives don't take long. They just end in points.
Yeah.
So the 3-and-outs are just that much more rapid-fire, and it gives that much more momentum and oxygen to an away crowd. That's just what can't happen.
Robert is in Murfreesboro up next.
Come on now, Lucas. We don't call this a Lucas Panzika show for you not to be inspirational to the rest of us Vol fans.
Come on.
I mean, you are the guiding light. I mean, you've got this, fella from up north somewhere that you're trying to guide and help his career by, but you've got to be inspirational to the rest of us now. Come on, Lucas.
And
we need you.
What Robert is saying, it's not just your job to prop me up, it's your job to prop them up as well. You have a responsibility.
Oh, man.
There it is. All right. Go Vols. Vols by 20 in the swamp on Saturday. Lucas is terrified. He's not confident at all. He's hiding behind the music. It's okay. We're just not going to project that outwardly, and we'll let him suffer through it at the wedding by himself. God help you. I award you no points. And may God have mercy on your soul. Good luck and God bless in Birmingham this weekend.
Thank you. I'm going to need it.
Polls are next. So is Blaine and Mickey. Wrap up with some polls here in just a little bit. Looking forward to a home game at Nissan Stadium on Sunday, and really excited to see what Tennessee is able to do at Florida. I know we've poked fun at Lucas all throughout the course of the show about BVS and about potentially being scared but not expressing it and trying to talk us all into the idea of Tennessee going down to the Swamp and handling business, as they should. But it's going to be a fascinating game and certainly a great first game to start conference play for Tennessee. But since we're talking about football, there's a lot of exciting high school football around Middle Tennessee coming up tonight, as we talked about the 104.5 The Zone Game of the Week earlier with Kevin Mawai, who's coaching Lipscomb Academy. They are going up against Ensworth, and that is where Lucas and Will be tonight. What else can you tell us, though, Bud, about the high school football slate?
This might be, I'd have to go back and check, the most talent-loaded matchup that we've had on the Zone, just as far as Power 5 talents on both sides. On the side of Lipscomb Academy, you've got the 2 Tennessee commits on one side, Caleb Beasley, the number 1 player in the state, the cornerback, Edwin Spillman, the middle linebacker, whose older brother Nate, already playing wide receiver at Tennessee. And that's not even including a litany of guys on the defensive line that have yet to commit somewhere. Dylan Lorick, the ECU commit at wide receiver. And then on the Ensworth side of things, Mason Curtis, outside linebacker as a recruit, but he's playing safety for Ensworth, committed to Michigan, a 4-star prospect. And Jaron Sensabaugh, the cornerback/wide receiver transfer from Knox Catholic, who is committed to Vanderbilt. So future Power 5 talent all over the place. Jaron Sensabaugh, legacy player, Titans legend Cody Sensabaugh.
I was just going to ask.
Yes, that's his cousin. That's a football family, man. His dad, Gerald, played 8 years for the Jags and the Cowboys, and he has a couple of cousins that were drafted into the NFL. Cody Sensabaugh, one of them, obviously played for the Titans for a few years.
Titans legend.
Titans legend, yeah. So, talent-loaded matchup. I can't wait for this one. Lipscomb Academy's 1-3, but we talked about it with Kevin Mawai. IMG Academy, Saraland out of Alabama.
Didn't they just put it on a team like some ungodly number to 0 recently, IMG Academy? I'm pretty sure like right after we talked to Mawai, I saw a score scrolling across somewhere recently.
Yeah, it's crazy the talent that's down there. And Lipscomb Academy, like Kevin told us, has had one of the toughest schedules in the entire country in high school football. This is a team that expects to contend for a 3rd straight state championship, but now they're doing it a level up in D2 AAA. So this isn't a region game between the two, but it is a battle between 2 D2 AAA teams, and I'm looking forward to it. A couple of high-flying offenses, talent, size on both sides. On defense, the game's at Lipscomb Academy, and again, one of the most, if not the most, talent-heavy matchups that we have ever had on 104.5 The Zone. 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock kickoff, and then after the game, Joe Hunk with you, taking you home until 11 o'clock, Friday night finals. It's week 5 of the high school football season. After tonight, teams across Tennessee will officially be halfway done with their regular season.
That's crazy.
5 of their 10 regular season games. We repeat that conversation every year. Like, oh, I can't believe it's week 5. But it really happens so fast in high school football, man. I mean, it goes by so quickly. It starts earlier, obviously. But, yeah, we always get to that point way earlier than it feels like we should be at that point. But, yeah, going to be a fun one tonight out at Lipscomb Academy.
Oh, you can hear Lucas and Will on the call. A quick note before we get to some polls. There's a lawsuit that's being filed against Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss by a defensive tackle who's still currently under scholarship there. He said he was recently kicked off the team. The tackle's name is DeSanto Rollins, for missing practices and meetings during a mental health crisis, and he's suing Coach Lane Kiffin for failure to provide equal protection, racial and sexual discrimination, and multiple other allegations. Worth keeping an eye on as we head into the college football weekend. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and throw it to some polls.
Not now, Jenny. I'm on the radio. Buck Rising gave me a job, said something about a poll update. Hope that wasn't at that club where you became a folk singer. Anyway, Buck Rising's producer and correspondent has the final poll update. I'm not a smart man, but I know who Lucas Panzica is.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, who sells below MSRP on any non-specialty new Ford. What must Tennessee do to secure a win at Florida? Andrew says catch the football. Kenneth says catch the football. Steven says Joe Milton has to be sharp or the run game has to be strong. How about both? Both could result in a blowout win.
A blowout win?
Yes.
Look at you. We just did a segment about BVS, and now you're talking about blowout wins.
Am I wrong?
One would think, but we haven't seen, like, the Vols blowing out Virginia was one thing. The Austin Peay result is more concerning than the Virginia result was, like, reinforcing, if that makes any sense.
If Tennessee limits big plays, which doesn't seem hard to do early on from this Florida offense, and Joe Milton is sharp and on time, and the run game is in rhythm and setting up the passing game, then yes, Tennessee should be able to run away in this football game. Eric says, get off to an early start, control the game, don't look back. Hard place to play at night. You can't afford to be playing behind or trading touchdowns.
Yeah, put yourself up early. I mean, that really is the thing. Like, they can have some of the execution issues, but they can't have it out of the gates. They need to find a way to get up first.
Vols fans, what's your worst Gainesville memory? V-Love says it's Nathan Peterman throwing 3 interceptions in 17 minutes in 2013 because Butch Jones decided the swamp was the perfect place for a freshman to make his debut.
The Peterman. It started there. The trauma started with Butch.
Caleb says watching Felipe Franks throw a Hail Mary to win. Yeah, that one hurt pretty bad.
That was a bad one.
That was certainly a sign of what was to come in that 2017 season. Eric, this is mine. Eric says 2015, 4th and 14, where if you get a stop, you win the game. For Florida, he says 4th and 14 still haunts me 8 years later. Had the lead 20-7. It was gone in a snap. Will Greer connects with Antonio Callaway for a touchdown, a long touchdown, and Florida goes on to win by a point because Butch Jones, after Tennessee scored to extend the lead, chose to kick an extra point to go up 13, not to go for 2 to go up 14, because that's what his chart told him to do.
How many of these involve Butch?
For you. All of Butch's trips to Gainesville ended in a pretty rough way, but been a lot of tough trips to Gainesville in the last 20 years. See if the Vols can exercise some of those demons on Saturday. Can the Titans beat the Chargers if DeAndre Hopkins is out? 59% say no.
I think they can. I just think it has to, I just think they have to have a coordinator capable of adjusting. And also the quarterback can't go nuclear. Like, it comes back to the quarterback. But, like, they have the tools to succeed. We saw them last week. The frustrating thing is you blew the opportunities that you had to put it away.
It stands to reason that Ryan Tannehill will have more time in the pocket against the Chargers if Joey Bosa's not playing than he did against the Saints in that front.
I mean, they're going to look at the way that the Saints were playing games up front, and maybe they don't have the same horses, but there was a path to success against Dillard and to confuse Skoronski, at least in his first game.
What was the most positive story you saw in sports this week? Friday Fire, presented, of course, by Central Barbecue. Tyler says Max Crosby in a Sports Illustrated interview talking about being 3 years sober, and he includes a link to the interview.
That's lovely. Mine is Deion Sanders getting ready to just drum Norvell and Colorado State this weekend because something so stupid said in the press conference by an opposing coach.
Those are the polls.
Excellent. That's the show. That's the weekly company countdown to kickoff is what is ahead of you next. Blaine Bishop, Mickey Ryan, Kayla Anderson, myself will be hanging out in front of the Pro Shop. Gate 1 on the stage. Kirby Allen Kirby will be out there with us, and we'll be breaking down the Titans from 9 to 11 before Titans Countdown begins. We'll get you over to the game after that. It'll be a great time. If you're hanging out at Nissan Stadium this weekend, come up and say hi. It's always so good to see you guys out in the wild, and certainly will be an interesting result one way or the other that we will have to talk about between the Titans and the Chargers. Enjoy the football, whether that's the Vols and the Gators, Tennessee and L.A. Have a great rest of your weekend. We'll talk to you on Sunday night on Primetime. Blaine and Mickey have you coming up next.